Hello students, I hope you are all fine and in good health. In this audio presentation, I will be continuing from the next paragraph related with the chapter Ranga'S marriage. As you know, I discussed at length about Ranga'S marriage. We get to know about Ranga, we get to know about the village Hosahalli, and not only that, we get to know about some important characters also related with this particular chapter. Now, dear students, the author will highlight the importance of the English language, and side by side some information we will get regarding Ranga also. Just like we got some information about Ranga at the very beginning of this chapter, and apart from that we got some information about Hosahalli. Now we will get some information more about Ranga, and not only that, about the importance of English language that I had referred to you all few minutes ago. Now, dear students, let's start. What I am going to tell you is something that happened 10 years ago. That means the narrator is about to tell us an incident that actually happened a decade ago. Now, what was that incident? As I told you that in this particular paragraph, he will describe the importance of the English language and how English language became very important in their day-to-day life. Now, an incident uh, been stated by the narrator. Now, that incident happened almost 10 years ago. Now, let us see, dear students, what was that incident. We did not have many people who knew English. That means 10 years ago, very few people used to talk, or very few people used to interact in English then. Our village accountant was the first one who had enough courage to send his son to Bangalore to study. The author was referring to the progressive minded, courageous accountant, that is Ranga's father, who showed enough positivity, and not only that, who showed enough courage and sent his son, that is Ranga, to Bangalore for higher studies. It is different now. That means 10 years ago, hardly few people could speak or interact in English, but now, 10 years down the line, almost all the people now in Hosahalli can understand English, and they can also speak fluently in English. There are many who know English. Now, as I already told you all, dear students, now the author told us, or we can get to know that now many are there who can speak in English. Now, the picture was not like this 10 years ago. During the holidays, you come across them on every street talking in English. During the holidays, during the weekends, you might see many people in Hosali village. They are uh, interacting with one another, they are conversing with one another in English. Those days, we did not speak in English, nor did we bring in English words while talking in Kannada. Now, those days means 10 years ago, as the narrator is stating that 10 years ago, hardly few people can speak in English, and they used to speak in Kannada language only, and they never used to incorporate English words. But 10 years down the line, the picture is now completely different. What has happened is disgraceful, believe me. Now, why it is disgraceful? And remember, the author is interacting with the readers. His style is very much interactive. The other day, I was in Rama Rao's house when they bought a bundle of firewood. Rama Rao's son came out to pay for it. Rama Rao's son came out to pay for the bundle of firewood. He asked the woman, and here I quote, "How much should I give you?" "4 pies," she said. So obviously the firewood was brought. Now Rama Rao's son came out to ask how much they should pay for the firewood. Now the woman who bought the firewood told him that he had to pay 4 pies. She said. The boy told her he did not have any change. Now this word change was been referred or been uttered, rather to say precisely, it was uttered in English. It was not uttered in Kannada. And the woman, she haven't understood the meaning of the word change and asked her to come the next morning. Rama Rao's son told that there is no change at this time, and even told the woman to come the next morning. But the word change, that was being told in English, and the woman was totally unfamiliar or not so much acquainted with this term. Neither she was aware of the actual meaning of this term. The poor woman did not understand the English word change because it was totally unfamiliar to her, and thus she went away muttering to herself. Now she was very much confused because the word change that was uttered by Rama Rao's son, the woman had no idea, no knowledge about that word. I too did not know. Even the narrator, he is frankly stating to the readers that at that moment also the narrator was not so acquainted with this term. Even the narrator also did not know exactly what the word change actually signified. Later, when I went to Ranga'S house and asked him, I understood what it meant. Later, the narrator of this story, he went to the house of Ranga, and Ranga, since he went to Bangalore for higher studies, he was well acquainted with the English words and their meanings. And when Ranga got to know the word change that was being uttered by the narrator, he clarified the meaning to the narrator. And then only the narrator totally understood what exactly the word change actually means. So this was the incident that has been referred in this paragraph. Dear students, I hope you all understood this paragraph. So now I am moving on to the next one. This priceless commodity. Here the narrator is talking about the significance and the importance of the English language. So I repeat, this priceless commodity, the English language, was not so widespread in our village a decade ago. Even it's a repetition of the same thought process, because in the previous paragraph we get to know that hardly few people used to speak in English. English was not so popular 10 years ago or a decade ago. It was not so popular. It haven't spread so much. Okay, almost 10 years ago. That was why Ranga'S homecoming was a great event. That was the reason the curiosity of the villagers was at its peak when they found Ranga came back from Bangalore after completing his higher studies. And that was the reason everyone gathered near his house to see whether there is any change in Ranga or not. People rushed to his doorstep announcing, and here I quote, "The accountant's son has come. The boy who had gone to Bangalore for his studies is here, it seems. And come, Ranga is here. Let's go and have a look. So they went on talking among themselves. They went on saying that the accountant's son has arrived. Even some of them went on saying that he had gone to Bangalore for his higher studies. He came back after completing his studies. Some of them even commented, "Come, Ranga is here. Let's go and let's have a look. Let's see whether Ranga is the same as he was previously before going to Bangalore for higher studies, or did he underwent a change." So in order to satisfy the curiosity, all the villagers, they decided to mill around, or rather to say, they decided to gather around the house of Ranga. Attracted by the crowd, I too went and stood in the courtyard. Okay, so the narrator was also very much attracted by the crowd, and obviously the narrator was eager, as well as the narrator was also curious to meet with Ranga. So he also went. So I repeat this line: attracted by the crowd, I too went and stood in the courtyard and asked, "Why have all these people come? There's no performing monkey here." Now I also was there among the crowd of people, and while standing among the crowd of people, I told that why there is so much of commotion, or rather to say, why there is so much of gathering. No one is performing a circus here. Okay, now in reply to that, a boy commented. See, here it is written. This is very hilarious, dear students. A boy, a fellow without any brains, said loud enough for everyone to hear. And here I quote what that boy told to the narrator: "What are you doing here then, if no one is performing a circus? So, and if no one is actually involved in performing a funny show or a circus, then what you are doing here?" It's a very valid question, and the narrator got very insulted when this boy retorted back, when this boy told him that if there is no circus is getting performed, then what are you doing here? A youngster, immature and without any manners. Okay, now this boy had told a very logical thing, but the narrator, it hurt the narrator's ego, and that was the reason he referred to this boy as without any brains. He even told this boy to be immature, without any manners. Thinking that all these things were now of the past, I kept quiet. Now, the author later realized that all these things are of the past, and it is better not to argue but to stay very quiet. Seeing so many people there, Ranga came out with a smile on his face in a very humble manner. Seeing so many people gathered around his house, Ranga came out. Had we all gone inside, the place would have turned into what people call the black hole of Calcutta. There lies the historical tragedy when the Nawab of Bengal, Sirajuddaulah, he actually imprisoned few innocent English women, children, and few of the Englishmen inside a room, and the next morning they almost all of them died because of suffocation, because they were being thrown inside a dungeon. Now many historians, they agree with this incident. Many of the historians, they disagree with this incident. This incident is referred as the famous black hole tragedy of Calcutta. Now why the author has used this sort of comparison or imagery? Because so many people, if they all went inside the room of Ranga, it would create a lot of commotion. So, in order to make it understandable to the readers, he came up with the historical tragedy that and controversy that was related to the infamous black hole of Calcutta. Thank God it did not. That means the people haven't went inside. Everyone was surprised to see that Ranga was the same as he had been 6 months ago when he had first left our village. Now everyone was surprised to see that Ranga was the same as he was when he left for Bangalore from Hosahalli 6 months ago. That means there was no change in his behavior, there was no change in his manner, there was no radical change in him. He was humble then, even now also, he is humble. An old lady who was near him ran her hand over his chest, looked into his eyes, and said, and here I quote, the Janewara. Janewara is actually the sacred thread owned by the Brahmins. The Janewara is still there. He hasn't lost his caste. She went away soon after that. Ranga laughed. So one of the old women in the crowd came forward and looked into the eyes of Ranga and even ran her hand over Ranga's chest, found that Ranga was still wearing the sacred thread, and it seems that she was very satisfied, and she finally came to the ultimate conclusion that Ranga haven't lost his caste. Ranga was exactly the same. There was no change in him as such. She was well satisfied. Along with that, the other villagers, by looking at Ranga and obviously inspecting him very closely, his behavior, his antics, his mannerisms, came to the conclusion that there was no such radical change in him. What he was previously 6 months ago, before he went to Bangalore, even after coming back from Bangalore, after completing his 6 months course from there, he looked and behaved exactly the same. He is humble, religious, well grounded, and when everything was very much impressive about Ranga, and when the villagers were duly satisfied with the mannerisms and behavior of Ranga, decided to move out from that place. So what I told to all of you, dear students, it is written in the next paragraph. Once they realized that Ranga still had the same hands, legs, eyes and nose, the crowd melted away. Slowly and slowly, when they realized that Ranga was exactly the same as he used to be earlier, they were extremely satisfied and well pleased. And when they were extremely satisfied and well pleased, they decided to melt away. Slowly and slowly, the crowd that gathered around the house of Ranga, it melted away like a lump of sugar in a child's mouth. Another beautiful imagery, just like a sugar filled sweet, just like a lump of sugar, it melts or dissolves when a child devotes it or when a child eats it. In the similar manner, the crowd that has gathered around the place of Ranga, when they all realized that Ranga was exactly the same, there was no change in him whatsoever, they decided to leave the place. I continued to stand there. I means obviously the narrator. He decided to stand there. After everyone had gone, the narrator decided to stand there. I asked, and here I quote, "How are you, Rangappa?" Actually, the nickname is Ranga, and in the village everyone lovingly used to call him Ranga, but his actual name was Rangappa. Is everything well with you? That means, is everything alright? It was only then that Ranga noticed me. He came near me and did a namaskara respectfully, saying, and here I quote, I am all right with your blessing. So, as I already referred earlier, that Ranga was very humble as he was previously. After he came back, he was still very humble, religious. Now, since so many people had gathered around his house initially to see whether he had changed or whether he was exactly the same, and when they found to their pleasure and satisfaction that Ranga was exactly the same as he used to be 6 months earlier, slowly and slowly they melted away like a lump of sugar in a child's mouth. Now, at that moment, since so many people had gathered, Ranga haven't noticed the author or the narrator, as you can say, dear students. Now, later, when everyone dispersed, or rather to say, later when the crowd dispersed, then Ranga noticed the narrator. And when the narrator told Ranga that how are you, in reply to that, Ranga told the narrator, I am all right with your blessings. That means I am absolutely fine with your blessings. Now, dear students, I stop here in this audio presentation. I hope you will like it, and I hope you will listen to it. If there is any doubts, any clarification to be made, let me know about it. I will be more than happy to clear all your doubts and your clarifications. Till then, stay safe, take care, dear students, and see you all once again with the remaining part of this chapter. Thank you, students. Thank you all.